And we're live. And before I say anything else, my friends, I have a thing to play for you.
Welcome to this Mexican avocado skincare regime. Get ready with me. I'm here with Holly, who is going to make out of Mexican avocados an amazing skin mask, because we can look great and bust the tariffs at the same time. Holly, how are we making a Mexican avocado skin mask?
Well then, we have Mexican avocados that have defeated the tariffs.
And will they work? Will this work if you use, a California avocado?
No, it won't. If you use a California avocado, you'll just look like an old person, the same as before.
All right, so I looked up on vibrantskinbar.com, which is generally considered authoritative about these things, and it says that Mexican avocados intensely hydrate skin, protect from free radicals, reduce inflammation, strengthens the skin barrier, alleviates sun damage, helps decrease aging signs, which when you're my age is a big deal, because I'm getting to the age where it starts to show. It increases elasticity, reduces dark spots, helps with psoriasis and eczema. I don't have psoriasis or eczema, but if I did, I would use Mexican avocados. Removes dead skin cells and may reduce acne breakout. So what are you adding to the...
Okay, Ben. So we have half a banana in each of our masks. We have half an avocado. Now, okay, all right. Now we're going to add some lemon juice to each one. We put the seeds in there. We don't worry about the seeds. It says to blend it, but we're not going to blend it because we like it lumpy.
Yeah,
it's more organic that way.
It says use a blender to avoid lumps.
Yeah,
we like
lumps because lumps are authentic, and we're nothing if not authentic. And so, and then we're going to put some honey in here. This is honey from somewhere. We don't know where, but...
All right, there are two important things to remember before you apply the avocado face mask, the Mexican avocado face mask. Number one, take off your glasses. Number two, headbands. Let's do it.
You look awesome.
You started, yeah.
Oh, you're gonna be so pretty.
All right.
Okay.
I think I'm done.
Okay. Now I assume we just have to sit.
Now we have to sit here for half an hour. This won't take long. All right.
You really look like something. Your face. This is good.
Yeah,
your skin. I can see your skin regenerating. Oh.
All right. There's one super cool thing left you can do when you do a Mexican avocado face mask.
That's delicious.
Remember, tariffs are so cringe.
It is March 21st, the year of our Lord 2025. It is 11 a.m., 11:04 a.m., because we had 3 minutes and 40 seconds of inane video. On the East Coast, I am in Phoenix, Arizona, where it is 8:04, because remember, these shows always take place on Ben Standard Time. They take place wherever I am at 8 in the morning. And Mr. Cactus, what do you have to say? You are watching Dog Shirt TV, and it is an effing revolution in morning television, and one of the revolutionary features, and there are many, is that the cactus will sometimes interrupt me. And another one of the revolutionary features, because as I said, there are many, is that sometimes the show gets deflected in time because I've gotten on an airplane and flown to Arizona, and where I have cheated on the cactus, and the cactus. I'm sorry to say this, Mr. Cactus, but I met somebody else yesterday, and and
The
so
cactus is glaring at you. I know it's hard to tell, but
yeah,
he's
it's really
glaring.
hard to tell the difference. But the cactus, we're going to have a cactus showdown in Washington, new cactus versus old cactus, and we're going to see whether old cactuses um, uh, CIA Directorate of Operations skills are really up to snuff, because new cactus, whose picture is on yesterday's Dog Shirt Daily, um, is making a bid for my heart. So with that, I just want to say we are not allowed to have fun anymore. Um, and
Yeah, because you're getting new cactuses and wrecking everything. You show wrecker.
yeah,
You're just going out and like getting new cactuses and just ruining the vibe here. Nobody appreciates this at all, especially the cactus, who is going to win, by the way. Your cactus doesn't talk. Your cactus has no CIA training.
we're going to have a cactus showdown, and it may be up to the audience: new cactus versus old cactus versus no cactus. I suspect
I
that no
I think the
cactus would
audience
do
has
pretty well
already decided.
in. Well, you never know. Um,
Or
uh,
sometimes you do.
All right. So let's first talk about your hat, Holly, because uh, you look so pretty in your hat, and it's blue and yellow, and it's got a sunflower. What's going on in the hat with the hat?
Well, my dear friend Tammy, who lives in Ohio, her wonderful mother, Loretta, crochets hats. And I suggested that maybe she should crochet a Ukraine hat so that I could wear it to my next Ukraine protest or function or laser show. And so I got this in the mail, and the weather has um, conveniently returned to winter, it seems like, for at least today. So I'm wearing my Ukraine beanie with the sunflower.
Well, if I am looking up right now, it is because while it may still be weather winter in Washington, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and there is a hummingbird flying over my head. And it's very cute and very small, and it's hovering and doing
That's what you
hummingbirdy
think.
things.
My
And
cactus sent that hummingbird, and that's actually a drone that's gonna
kill
destroy
me.
you here in a
Yeah,
sec.
the cactus is
With a poison
already
dart. It's gonna like
wreaking
blow a
revenge.
poison dart out its beak.
All right. So, brief announcement. We're going to have to wrap up about 5 minutes early today, because I am going to need to go into a quieter space for a podcast recording. And other than that, we may be interrupted by, so I'm looking down at the breakfast, and this conference is being held under Chatham House rules, so I'm not allowed to say anything about who's here, but I see several former guests on Dog Shirt TV / In Lieu of Fun sitting down there. And if some of them walk upstairs or just walk by, as one of them did, I may say, "Hey, so and so, come join us." Pull up a chair and have them join us. But that may not happen, because I've found a little bit of an out of the way place. Um, and because I didn't want to be bombarded by music or whatever is going down there. So what is on your mind this morning?
Well, first of all, I have an exciting announcement. I
Oh,
felt like
yes, podcast.
yes, I looked out into the market, and it was clear there weren't enough podcasts. And so I decided
Specifically interview form podcasts.
yeah,
There
there's
aren't
just
there
there's
just
not
aren't
enough.
enough of those.
I mean, I myself have a good 5 minutes a day in which I don't have a podcast in my ear, and I felt like there needed to be more content. So I started a podcast with my Substack. I think it's registering, or anyway, I think it should be on Spotify and Apple, but I don't know if I did that right. Frankly, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's just true every single day these days. And that's fine, because it's all good. Basically, Ben, let me tell you my strategy.
Yeah, well,
Right.
before we get to the strategy, what is the podcast about? Tell us about the podcast. Usually we put that ahead of the I don't know what I'm doing. And by the way, that applies to everything thing. So let's start with what's going on with your who's appearing on your podcast? What is the podcast?
Well, the podcast is named after my Substack, which is a zebra without stripes, and the theme of both and me and everything is basically, trying to find belonging and find our place and our identities in this crazy world that we're living in. And so the guests that I'm having on are hopefully going to be hopefully, or we'll make it work. We'll make it fit with the theme if we have to add some filler here and there. But it's
Yeah, you
people
can
who,
always make it fit with the theme by saying to people,
right,
so where do you get meaning in your life?
there you
What
go.
what
Yeah,
are the stripes for your zebra?
right. So no, but I'm trying to find people who have had like sort of big departures in their lives, times and ways that they've had to sort of retool, redefine themselves, and what has given them, what has given them sort of grounding and purpose and community as they've done that. So the first guest, I was really thrilled that our friend, Dog Shirt Daily friend, Katerina Schmatna, Katie, some people know her as Katie.
Schmatzina.
Well, she told me to say Schmat. Oh, we practiced it several
Really?
times.
Have I been
Yeah,
pronouncing it wrong all
you
this
might
time?
be. We have a whole tutorial at the beginning of the show, so you should listen at
Whoa.
least to the first minute, where so you can learn to say her name properly. Unless, I mean, she said I got it right finally after like 5 attempts. So I don't know. Maybe I'm still wrong, but
Well,
that's
no, I'm gonna check it out because, I assumed that the pronunciation transliteration standards for Belarusian would be the same as for Russian, and that could be just completely wrong.
well, anyway, I go by her. And by the way, her first name is Katerina, which is really not hard to say, and she prefers it to Katie. And someone suggested to her that Americans would have an easier time. And to me, I always find it sad when people like change their names or adapt their names so that Americans can say their names. So anyway, I'm not going to be calling her Katie myself. I'm going to be calling her Katerina because it's not hard to say and because that is her actual name. But we basically go through her whole story, starting from her childhood in an authoritarian regime. And, she's just an amazing person. And some of the stuff we didn't even get into because she kind of didn't want to talk about. But let me tell you, she's even more remarkable than you know. Like, she has really been on her own for a long time in her life and is still living a life of a lot of uncertainty and constant adaptation. And yeah, I'm kind of bowled over by her.
Correct on all fronts, and also correct on the front that only part of it is public for obvious reasons, and um, you know, so that's cool. So she's the first guest. Do you know who the second guest is?
Um, well, I have a few people I'm pursuing, but we'll
But
see.
but the big theme is leaving things.
Leaving and just people who have had to redefine themselves in some way. So that's kind of the theme. I think a lot of people are kind of in a place of being disoriented right now. I think there's a lot to learn from people like this. So plus it's just interesting stories, that her story is just fascinating. Um,
Yeah. So where can people find it?
Well, that's a good question.
No,
Like
because
I said,
like these are going to be mostly people who know how to use things. So
that's
so
right.
like okay, we're eventually it'll be on Spotify, but it's not on Spotify yet. So how can people
You can,
find the
it's
Zebra Without Stripes the A Zebra Without Stripes
it's on
podcast?
my Substack. So if you
Okay.
go to my Substack, if you subscribe to my Substack, oh, someone suggested Peter Enns. I love Peter Enns. Oh my gosh, Richard, oh please. I want to go on his podcast actually. I'm gonna follow up with you, Richard. Peter Enns, I would love to interview
I have a
actually.
recommendation for you.
Oh, great.
My
Yeah.
recommendation for you is Shalom Auslander.
Oh,
Um,
I think I heard him on your show before,
I've
right?
never met him. No,
Oh,
so no, you've never heard him on my show. But he is a comic writer. He did a lot with,
no, you mentioned him to me before. That's what
yeah.
it was. Yeah.
So, yeah, he's got a Substack. He wrote a book called Foreskin's Lament. And he writes for the New Yorker sometimes and does work for This American Life. And he's freaking hilarious. And it's all about being formerly rigorously Orthodox, growing up rigorously Orthodox Jewish, and then leaving it. And so,
Well, that
um,
sounds like my kind of person for
and it's
sure.
bitter and and um, it's kind of savage um, humor, and the book is amazing. So yeah, that's
That's
my
good.
recommendation.
If you have a contact for me, let me know.
I don't.
Um,
I don't know him at all.
all right. Well, we'll see how it goes. But I have some other people that are friends, people that I know and who actually I know will do it. It's just a matter of arranging it. So we will yeah, we'll be hearing from a lot of people. But basically, my whole strategy with this and everything that I'm doing, including this podcast binge, your thing, I'm basically taking a page from Vladimir Putin, which I realize is not probably a good thing to say, but hear me out. Basically, what Putin has been doing for like 20 years now is what has turned out to be a highly successful covert influence campaign. And basically, he's just stumbled into success. But what the Russians have always done is just throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall, just like try shit out. Just try it. It's cheap. Do things that are like cheap, easy. And basically, my
They
whole life
haven't
is
done makeup videos yet, though.
well, anyway, they just try out
That's
like
why their
just
skin is
shit.
not elastic.
Yeah, and you just never know what's going to work, right? So basically, I am like whoring myself out in every single way publicly. Like if you have a podcast, I will go on your podcast.
Yeah, so I like this strategy because you're doing everything from writing serious articles about South Sudan that have to go through pre-publication review at the CIA to like doing comic makeup videos and parodies of Bulwark characters, several of whom are sitting down there having breakfast, by the way.
Well,
I'm
please
not
give
allowed
them
to say
my.
which ones or name
I
anybody,
I
but
I know which ones because I know who's there because I
um,
know things and I know people. I
because
just
yeah, because
don't.
you're a spy
Yeah,
and you have the cactus. Um, so
tell them hello.
um, no, because shouting hello from Holly from the upper deck. If some of them migrate over, I will yank them
You have
over here.
some dignity, not very much, but you have a
I
little
don't have a
bit of
lot of
dignity.
dignity, but I
I was
do
gonna
have
say.
a modest sense of decorum. All right, what else is going on?
That's pretty much it. Oh, my fundraiser. By the way, did I show the painting, the finished paint? This one's actually not as good. I'll show you this one. So my fundraiser is going really well. This is one of the finished ones. Can y'all see that? Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great.
So basically, let's see. I've gotten 37, I raised the price not to 100, but I raised it to 60, which is a $50 profit margin, for charity. So
And plus now you have like slave labor making them. So
I
it's
do,
it,
I
it
do a
really
little
drives
bit.
down the price.
Yeah, a little bit. So I had the first of what will be several gatherings of friends at my house, to cut out the fabric, and some of them I actually, they decided to try to decoupage the fabric on there. Um, don't tell anyone. Shh. Um, some of the work was not up to my standards, so I had to cover up some of their decoupage with my own decoupage. Um, but it worked out fine. So just don't tell anyone that I do this with my kids. Like, I'm sure this is not something you can relate to because you're a well-adjusted person and not like a anal retentive person. But I have like some anxiety, anal retentive streaks that I've worked really hard on crushing, but they're still like lurking under there sometimes. So I do this whole thing where like you let the kids decorate your Christmas tree, and then you go, when they've gone to bed, you go back and like, because they did a bad job. So then you go and like rearrange the ornaments. So I kind of
And do
did
the
that
kids
with,
notice when you do that?
no, they never noticed. So I kind of did that a
But
little
you know,
bit.
if you do a podcast about it, um, then maybe some of the people do notice that you're announcing that they did lousy work, substandard work, and that you had to redo it, and that there's a part of you that's comparing that to managing your kids and the Christmas tree. I'm not saying that they're sure to notice that because there are only 13 people watching this, and you know they may not be among the hundreds and hundreds of thousands who watch the YouTube version, but they
Well,
might be.
Well, I also just want to clarify, like, mostly their work was good and very helpful. Um, there was a couple instances where the fabric that they used didn't quite work, like it, because you don't need it like monochromatic, but you need it kind of. They used some like too many darker, bigger pieces down here that doesn't really work. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like a disaster. It was just, I just tweaked it a little bit.
Holly's
Um,
thanks to all the people who showed up to help her sell things.
Richard says I'm
Your
a
work was
decoupage
not
editor.
a
Yes.
disaster, but um,
It's just an edit. Everybody needs an editor, right?
I'm
Everybody needs
I'm
an
not
editor.
actually making fun of you. I look, my whole business model at Lawfare for a long time, and I still do it, is I recruit talented young people to write things, and I this is how I train people. I have them. I give them the list of points we're going to make. They write a draft. They get kind of 70 to 75% of the way there,
Yeah,
based entirely on my ideas and their research, and then I write on top of it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's when you see a co-bylined piece between me and somebody whose name you've never heard, that is what it is.
Yeah.
And so this is very similar to what Holly is doing. The only difference is I don't go on podcasts then and criticize the quality of
Well,
their
now you just
original
have to.
draft.
Now that next time I see your byline with someone's name I never heard of, now I'm gonna know. But that's reasonable because you have the experience and they don't. And my friends coming over to help, they are not. They don't have the decoupage artist experience of that I have because I've been doing this for several years now, hundreds and hundreds of pieces probably at this point. And so, yeah, so I'm just going and, evening out. But what they're doing is incredibly helpful, especially the cutting out of the fabric, because that is very tedious, time consuming work. And so it's all very helpful and it's fun. We just sat around and did arts and crafts together and it was fun. And so I'm gonna probably need your advice on what charities to give it to. I do Tatiana and Sergey, who are our friends who inspired this whole project and who are seeking, they're came here last year on parole status and we're trying to help them stay in the country for a longer period of time now that that program is probably ending. I'm wanting to, they're trying to identify some way to benefit the hospital in their hometown of Izum, which has been heavily bombarded.
They're from Kharkiv, right?
Yeah. And their town is in shambles, and it continues to be under attack. And so we're trying to find a way to send some money to their town. So I haven't donated any of the money yet, but I will be donating some money as soon as we can figure that out, and then the first tranche there, and then we'll be if you have any charities that you like, Ben, we'll
Yeah, so let's talk about that offline.
Yep.
There are advantages and disadvantages to different charities. It may be the case that if you want to direct it somewhere very, very local, there's no 501c3 that can do it. And so
Yeah.
you end up sacrificing the tax deduction. I personally don't care very much about that, but other people do. Speaking of charitable causes, and this one does have a 501c3 associated with it, the former employees of USAGM, the parent company of Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Asia, Radio Marti in Cuba, these are, there's some like somewhere 2,000-ish AGM employees who were fired the other day. There is a fundraiser going. You can find it on my Facebook page or on my Blue Sky page for these employees, many of whom are going to have visa problems now that they're no longer employed in the United States. A lot of them have visas that are attached to their specific employment at USAGM. We're trying to raise $100,000 to help and support them. I personally have some skin in this game, made a donation yesterday, also, as did a lot of other people. I think last I looked, there was something like $6,000 raised in the first few hours of the thing. So people are taking it pretty seriously. If you're inclined to make a contribution, this is a weird combination of supporting journalism and journalists who supporting it has an immigration dimension. It also has a destruction of U.S. federal government dimension that is a little bit different from some of the other agencies that are being dismantled, because these are principally not, or many of them are not U.S. citizens, and their visa status is attached to their employment for this government outfit that is being dismantled or been dismantled. So that will be our cause of the day on Dog Shirt Daily today, and just wanted to mention it here. All right, so
what's in your mind? Like, I saw the news about this Paul Weiss, not Paul Weiss,
right,
but
it is
Ross,
Paul and Weiss, and
Paul and Weiss.
yeah, I mean, there's no and, but it is
Oh,
Paul. I think the full name of the firm is Paul Weiss Rifkin, and I don't remember what the last named partner, but there's a big trendy thing going on in law firms to get rid of all the other named partners. So Wilmer, Cutler, and Pickering has just become Wilmer Hale, and Venable Bacher now is just Venable. And there's a bunch.
well, that's kind of erasing some people,
Yeah,
don't
it's
you
got
think?
some serious erasure going on, but this is what happens when you put marketing people in charge of things. They decide that, one short name, right?
John has suggested that lawfare just become law.
Or fair or
Yeah.
unfair.
Fair. Fair.
So, or Dog Shirt Daily could just become dog.
Dog.
Yeah, so Paul Weiss is a Democratic-linked firm that the president targeted for reasons that I'm honestly not sure I can quite understand. Unlike Perkins Coie, Paul Weiss was not like the progenitor of did not commission the company that commissioned the Steele dossier.
Shouldn't it defend like Pomerantz or one of
Well,
these?
Pomerantz is a former partner there.
Okay.
And Jeannie Rhee, who was one of Bob Mueller's people, is a partner there. And Jay Johnson is a partner there. It's definitely a Democratic linked firm, but I don't think it's particularly associated with any anti-Trump causes in a way that isn't also true of 10 other firms. So I've never quite understood what Paul Weiss's individual great sin was, unless it was just a vehicle to make a statement to other firms, which is probably the explanation. But
Or just to get favors out. I mean, apparently now they're getting a favor from, like, they're going to get free legal services.
yes, so Paul Weiss yesterday capitulated, and in a very embarrassing fashion, I thought. And to my various friends who may work there or may have attachments to the place, sorry, how to call this one like I see it. They agreed, first of all, to get rid of all their DEI programs. And secondly, to renounce the activities of Mark Pomerantz, this previous partner there, whose activities have been, I thought, a bit inappropriate, to be honest, but not inappropriate vis-a-vis Trump. They've been inappropriate vis-a-vis the New York DA. And then finally, they agreed to do $40 million of pro bono work in areas of administration priority. Now, what that's going to consist of and whether it will consist of anything objectionable, I don't know. But it does look, and in exchange, the president has rescinded his executive order taking away all of their security clearances. So, it's a pretty dramatic capitulation. Hey, man, you want to join a live stream? Yeah, so that was somebody I can't name who does not want to join this live stream this morning.
What a rejection. That was harsh, man.
Wanted breakfast instead. Look, I think the message here is less about Paul Weiss than it is to other firms. And the message that they're sending to other firms is, don't hire all these people that we're firing. Don't take on pro bono clients in challenging us, or, be careful who you take on, because we will come after you. And
I just don't how are people so cowardly? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the cost for standing your ground and being like, fuck off?
The cost is probably millions and millions of dollars.
Okay, maybe they're going to lose millions this way now by being objectionable to
you don't have to persuade me. Hello, do you want to join a live stream? Denied again.
You're getting rejected.
I'm getting serial rejection.
Missionary out there.
Yeah, I agree.
The door slammed.
You want to join a live stream?
Tell them it's me. They might join if they know I'm here.
I'm just getting rejected all over the place here, and it's starting to hurt my feelings.
I know, but that's what you're resilient, though. You're resilient.
And I am resilient. Unlike Paul Weiss, which just capitulated. Right. See, I didn't ask them, what are your demands to not reject me? I just smiled and, Who
needs them? Who needs them?
That's right. No, look, these are... people like to forget this about law firms, because law firms are, they're composed of people who are officers of the court, and they have this, they all talk very piously about the values of their firms and the things they represent and their clients' interests. And I thought all of that is true. And at the end of the day, law firms are big, not corporate because they're partnerships, but they're big business entities that are extremely revenue driven. And, they are not public interest related organizations. They represent exactly two things, which is the interests of their clients and their own bottom lines and nothing else. And, we should be, if you look around at the 125, 30 cases that Lawfare is tracking that are challenging the Trump administration, uh, notice that a lot of them are not big firms that are representing these plaintiffs challenging it. A lot of them are public interest groups. A lot of them are smaller firms. A lot of them are, and there are some big firms that have gotten involved in very appealing, frankly, ways I want to call out. Arnold and Porter has the USAID case. They've litigated that extremely tenaciously and effectively. So I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. Munger Tolles has the National Endowment for Democracy case. So there are, firms that have done yeoman's work, and I really don't want to. But there are certain law firms that talk a great game when they go to campuses to recruit associates. They talk very proudly about their pro bono practices. And for those of you who were watching from certain firms, which I'm not going to name today, but I might name later. It's pretty surprising how visible you guys aren't in some of these cases, and how quiet and business as usual a lot of the firms are being. And so I just want to say that we do notice that, and we notice which firms have been lions and which ones have been, little cats hiding under the couches.
Yeah, but I would think, I mean, this goes to the foundations of their entire profession. Like, what is, if the law is subverted, then what is it to be in the law? Like, what I asked Katie actually, or Katerina, sorry. I asked Katerina because she studied law in Belarus.
Yeah, she's
That
a
was her.
Belarusian lawyer, which sounds like a contradiction in terms.
Yeah, well, I asked her, I'm like, well, what is law in an authoritarian regime? And she said, that's a really good question. And as best as she could describe it, it was basically you're becoming kind of an actor in a show, in a sort of public drama, for public consumption, that there's actually no real basis. It's just a show. And you're training to act in the show.
Right. So let's do the game theory of this from a big law firm's point of view. You have a whole lot of clients that may depend on the fact that you have security clearances, or that you have relations with certain government agencies for certain purposes. And the president can turn that off by flipping a switch, or at least he can try. So if you represent that case that goes to the core of the profession, you're courting millions or tens of millions of dollars of lost revenue, depending on how big you are. If you don't, probably somebody else will do it. And
okay,
so
yeah.
You have and maybe it won't be as well litigated or quite as well resourced in the litigation, but come on, the public interest groups are pretty good, and some other law firm will take it on. And then you get the best of both worlds. The case gets litigated, just not by you, and you don't lose the revenue in the short term. So it's a rational play. It's just a cowardly, morally unappealing play.
Okay, but let me ask though, because I assume some of these or a lot of these cases that would need classified, sort of access to classified material in the current era are people, let's say, like a former CIA analyst who is being, has lost her job or whatever, is being like tormented by Elon Musk or whatever.
And tell me, how much revenue does that former CIA analyst bring to the firm?
Okay, zero revenue. Okay, but
Not
tell me
zero.
what
You
timeline.
can charge her. You can charge her even enough to make a big difference in her life. Let's say you charge her $50,000. That's going to be a big problem for her, but it's not a big source of revenue for you.
Right.
Maybe it
I guess
covers
my
one
question is,
associate's office for a year or something, but it's not it's not the big cases that require security clearances where law firms and it's not just, by the way, it's not just security clearances, it's regulatory practices in general where the you're representing some entity in front of a federal agency, and the federal agency can refuse to meet with you, right? They can, like, so what Trump did to Perkins Coie is he forbade them their lawyers access to federal buildings, right? That goes way beyond the
all
um,
right, but here's my question though. So, but just those cases to begin with, you're basically suing the government, is that right?
some
So,
of them you are, some of them you're trying to influence regulatory decisions.
okay, well, my question is, isn't taking the case in the first place then going to piss off the Trump administration? And so isn't that sort of a catch-22? Like you've appeased them to keep access to all this, but then you have a client so that you can take on a client that's going to potentially sue them, which will then make them mad at you again.
All right, let's talk about some real examples.
Yes, because I clearly have no idea what I'm talking about.
Okay, so Google, Facebook get a gazillion a year demand letters from the FBI under court authorities, court warrants, 702 orders, right? For content production, right? They have law firms that do this. This is just routine business between the government and a major tech platform. It's not litigation. It's, we have an order that, you got to produce all of Holly's text messages because we think she may be a terrorist. Well, okay, but, so here's so you do that. You have internal counsel who do that. You have external counsel who work on those whenever there's an issue arises. Why would you hire a law firm whose security clearances were in question to do that work when you could hire, one who's in good with the administration and Kash Patel? That's an example. Let me give you another example. If you are you're a university that needs to curtail some of your DEI programs because they are either illegal, as some of them actually are under existing Supreme Court precedent, or because you fear that the education department is going to come down on you like they came down on Columbia for something. So you need a review. Why would you hire a firm whose lawyers are suspicious to the administration rather than you could say, let's have let's have a law firm that we know has a good relationship with the administration, so they can call the administration and say, hey, don't come down on the University of Southern North Dakota. We've, looked at their programs and they're kosher, right? And so, like, there's just a lot of situations where you want lawyers who are not known to be the enemy of the administration. Now, there are other situations, you're right, where you're in a very adversarial posture with the government, where you want lawyers who are going to be, swinging hard, and that those firms are going to be the least affected by this, because they're not the ones who are dependent on business that requires particularly collaborative relations.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. I get it now. I think I get it. I get it as much as I'm probably going to get it. So thank you, Ben.
So we are going to, if you don't have anything more today, we are going to wrap up a little bit early today, unless somebody jumps in and has an issue they want to raise. We're going to wrap up a little early today so that I can find a quiet spot to do a podcast interview 14 minutes from now. All right, we're going to count down from 5, 5, 4, 3. It's hard to do this with a mirror. 2, 1. All right, we're done. We will see you on Monday. You are all great Americans. The Cactus War is coming, and we'll see you on Monday.